Hello, greetings to everyone and welcome to this video lectures on cosmology. Yesterday we have seen the introductory aspects of this course on cosmology. Today we are dealing on the first chapter on this course called the Principles and Methods of Science, which is a rudimentary thing for an understanding of our study in cosmology. The Principles and Methods of Science. The main principle that is under our study is the principle of causality. So, the cause and conditions. What is cause and condition, or how are we to understand cause and its causal connection in the events of phenomenon taking place in the universe? We know that to exercise a certain amount of control over our environment, we must have some knowledge of causal connection. For example, the physicians have more power to cure illness if they know that what causes the sickness or the illness, and if they should and what sort of a medicine they should administer if they know the effects of those medicines, including the side effects of those medicines. Only then they have a control over a patient with a kind of illness. Thus, having knowledge of the cause gives a control over the environment. Now, there are several different meanings of the word cause. Events do not just happen in nature, but occur only under certain conditions. Taking up the conditions in general, we are to see how they are to be occurrence of an event. Conditions are the environmental situations that positively or negatively contribute to the happenings or evolution of a new phenomenon. We can distinguish two kinds of conditions: a necessary condition and sufficient condition for the occurrence of an event. A necessary condition for the occurrence of a specified event is a circumstance in whose absence the event cannot occur. For example, the presence of oxygen is a necessary condition for combustion or burning. For the burning to occur, the presence of oxygen is necessary. That is to say, if combustion occurs, then oxygen must be there, because in the absence of oxygen there can be no combustion. Although it is a necessary condition, the presence of oxygen is not a sufficient condition for combustion to occur. A sufficient condition for the occurrence of an event is a circumstance in whose presence the event must occur. That is a sufficient condition. That is to say, a circumstance with necessary condition alone is not enough for an event to take place. It requires another condition which is sufficient enough along with the necessary condition to make the event to take place. Thus, the presence of oxygen is not a sufficient condition for combustion, because oxygen can be present without combustion occurring. The sufficient condition is the temperature required of an object of combustion. On the other hand, for almost any substance, for an event of combustion to take place, there is some range of temperature, such that being in that range of temperature in the presence of oxygen, it is a sufficient condition for combustion of that substance. Thus, oxygen as a necessary condition alone is not a sufficient condition. It's a necessary condition. As a sufficient condition, it requires something else. Here, in the case of a combustion, it requires a required range of temperature. Now the question is, to which of these conditions are we to use the word cause? Can we say the cause of combustion is oxygen, or it is a temperature? Or what is in what sense are we to understand the cause of combustion The word cause is sometimes used in the sense of necessary condition and sometimes in the sense of sufficient condition. It is used as a necessary condition that there is sufficient temperature but no oxygen. The combustion must not happen because the necessary condition is not there. When with a sufficient condition of temperature, the combustion does not take place because there is no the necessary condition and no event taking place or no combustion taking place. Thus, here why the combustion does not take place, the reason or the cause is because there is no oxygen. Here the cause is used in the sense of necessary condition. It is also used in the sense of sufficient condition, that is to say, there is oxygen but no temperature must not, and the combustion must not occur. If it is there, then the event must occur. Here, the sufficient condition for the occurrence of an event is the circumstance in whose presence the event must occur, which comprises the contention of all the necessary conditions of an event, and that is, it all comprises the necessary condition along with it, and is normally considered the cause of that event. So, the normal consideration of the cause of any event is sufficient condition, and the sufficient condition comprises the presence of the necessary condition, in which the event must take place, and the cause of it is the sufficient condition. The other one is the absence of which the event does not take place. Here and there, the cause is the necessary condition. Now, for example, in the case of the combustion again, the sufficient condition would be the conjunction of all the necessary conditions, namely the presence of oxygen and the required temperature for a particular substance. Therefore, in our normal sense, the meaning of the word cause is the sufficient condition comprising of the necessary conditions. There, the event takes place, and the cause of that event is the sufficient condition, which implies the necessary conditions as well. Now, what is the meaning of this cause in the practical use? We understand that in finding out the cause of an event in our practical day-to-day experience, the meaning is rather different. In certain practical situations, the word cause is used in a different sense. Suppose an insurance company sent investigators to determine the cause of a mysterious fire in a farmer's farmhouse. It would not be sufficient for them to report that the fire was caused by the presence of oxygen in the atmosphere. Although they are right in the sense of the presence of oxygen in the sense of necessary condition. But the insurance company is not interested in that sense of the cause as necessary condition, such as the presence of oxygen. Nor is it concerned with the sufficient condition that there was temperature. So the necessary condition and sufficient condition in terms of the presence of oxygen and the required temperature is not the concern of the insurance company. The insurance company is using the word cause in another sense. What is that? They want to find out what is the incident or the action which, in the presence of the sufficient condition for combustion, that is the presence of oxygen and the required temperature for the particular substance, that produces fire. That is, what is the meaning of the cause in our practical sense here in the example of the insurance company investigating the cause of fire is not satisfied. It cannot be satisfied with a report saying that there was sufficient temperature and there was oxygen, but rather they look for the incident or the action that triggered the event to take place in the presence of oxygen and sufficient temperature. That is the cause in our practical sense. Now, having known what is the meaning of the word cause and how it is occurring and how it is understood in our day-to-day understanding and speaking about the incidents and their causes and reasons. Now we speak about, in having known this, we speak about the remote and proximate causes. What is the remote cause we speak, and what is the meaning of the proximate causes that we speak? Now we can distinguish between the remote and the proximate causes. There is a causal sequence of several events. For example, A causing B, B causing C, C causing D, and D causing E. We can regard E as effect of any or of all the preceding events. So we can say E is the effect of all the preceding events from A to D. But at the same time, the nearest cause of E is the D, and therefore we say that D is the proximate cause of E. And the other causes are C, B, and A are more and more remote than D. Therefore we say that A more remote than B, and B more remote than C, and C more remote than D, to the effect called E. Thus we speak of the remote cause and proximate cause. Now when we take the example of the case of fire in the farmhouse, the proximate cause is the policyholders lighting the fire. The policyholder lighting the fire and the farmhouse got burnt. But that action may have been caused by the need for money to cover the losses from an investment in farming, which may be occasioned by bad weather. Thus, the bad weather may be said to be remote cause of fire. Now, there are different senses of the term cause. And we have, therefore, in the example of the farmhouse, the proximate cause is the policyholder lighting the farmhouse. But the remote cause is the bad weather. Now, the causes can be understood in different senses. We can infer cause from effect only in the sense of necessary condition. For example, from the running of the car, we can infer its cause, namely the presence of petrol in its tank. And we can infer effect from cause only in the sense of sufficient condition. For example, from the presence of oxygen and sufficient high temperature, we can conclude to the effect that particular substance catches fire. Because from the presence of the oxygen, or we infer effect from the cause, that is, the effect is a catching fire. Catching fire is because of the high temperature with oxygen. Thus, in the sense of inferring effect from cause. And where inferences are made both from cause to effect and from effect to cause, the term cause must be used in the sense of necessary and sufficient condition. So when we try to infer the cause from effect or effect from cause, and thus explain the events in their causality or causal connection, we have the cause in the sense of both necessary and sufficient condition, either in the sense of necessary condition or in the sense of sufficient condition, but both are included in that. That is that. Now, again, from this understanding of causal connection or causality, we can speak about positive and negative conditions. What is a positive condition in the causal connection or causality of an event taking place? We can speak about positive and negative conditions in connections with the necessary and sufficient conditions. Negative conditions are associated with the necessary condition because we have already said that in the absence of oxygen, burning or combustion must not take place because the presence of oxygen is necessary. So a necessary condition for the occurrence of a specified event is the circumstance in whose absence the event cannot occur. Thus, the absence of oxygen is a necessary condition for the combustion to occur. If oxygen is absent, there can be no combustion. That is, the absence of oxygen and the presence of temperature, combustion does not happen. That is to say, if those conditions are absent, then the burning will not take place. And the burning cannot take place. Thus, necessary conditions are negative conditions in the causal connection of events. Now, positive conditions are associated with sufficient conditions. A sufficient condition for the occurrence of an event is a circumstance in whose presence the event must occur. For example, the presence of oxygen and sufficiently high temperature is a positive condition for burning to occur. This means that if those conditions are present, then burning will occur. That is why they are called positive conditions, in the presence of which the event must occur. The other one is a negative condition, which means that the absence of which the event must not occur. Thus, necessary conditions are negative conditions and sufficient conditions are the positive conditions. Now, having explained how causality and causal conditions are working or affecting in an event, now we come to causes and invariants. There is something invariance in the causal connection of events taking place. The popular common sense notion of cause is an interpretation of non-human behavior in terms of human behavior. Something happens which is something non-human, but we try to attribute to some human behavior. When we take the statement as someone says, John broke the window, it is supposed to express a causal connection because there is an agent, John, who produced the breaking of the window, which is the effect. Similarly, when we say petrol causes the car to run, the petrol is said to be the cause, of which the running of the car is the effect. The petrol is said to be the cause because it is believed to produce the running of the car. In the popular mind, all changes require causes to explain them, and when found are interpreted as agents producing the change. So, there are causes involved of events, and it is popularly required of something or someone as the cause of the events taking place, and such an explanation satisfies the popular human mind. Thus, the real cause is attributed to an agent or a thing. But when we reflect on causing and producing effect, really on causing and producing effect, regarding the alleged instances of causality, for example, in the case of John broke the window or petrol running the car, or the cause of the running of the car, we can discover an invariant relation between two processes, not two agents. The two processes. Certain causes are accompanied by certain effects. But even this invariant does not always obtain. So, usually, what makes our popular mind to think about an agent taken as the cause of an event is because certain causes are accompanied by certain effects. But we say that this invariant does not always true or always happen. Thus, we say petrol does not always run the car, or we can say the petrol alone is not the cause of running the car. Other factors also must be present for the car to run. Any fault of the other factors will block or will be a hindrance to the running of the car. Or John's hitting the window does not always break the window. There are other factors also involved, that sometimes John hitting breaks breaks the window, sometimes it does not break the window, because there are other factors to involved whose presence or absence will bring about the change or bring about the effect, the event to take, or the effect to take place or not to take place. Hence, other factors are sought which seem to be necessary for the occurrence of the effects. Therefore, an agent with his action alone or a particular thing whose presence alone is not to be taken as the or as something always accompanying a particular effect. There are other factors involved of the causal connection that is to be taken seriously in our understanding of the real nature of causality or causal connection. Thus we say there is a gradual transition from the crude causal invariance observed. Crude causal invariance means that certain circumstances accompanying certain phenomenon as an effect invariably is to be removed from our understanding, and we observe that in everyday experience to the more completely analyzed invariant relations of the developed sciences, and this is brought to a different understanding by the development of science, which brings out that there are many other factors involved of a particular event, not the apparently seen agent or a thing causing a phenomenon or an event to take place. Now we come to the principle of the uniformity of nature. The word cause presupposes the doctrine that cause and effect are uniformly connected. We admit that a particular cause produced, that is, the circumstances causing a particular effect, only if we agree that any similar or other circumstances of that type will cause similar effect. This means that similar causes produce similar effects. Now, part of the meaning of the word cause is that every occurrence of a cause producing an effect is an instance of the general law that such and such circumstances are always accompanied by such and such a phenomena. Therefore, a causal law asserts that such and such a cause is invariably accompanied by such and such effect, exactly the same kind of phenomena, no matter when or where it occurs. Thus, causal relation is not a purely logical or deductive relationship. It cannot be discovered by any a priori reasoning. That is to say, the uniformity of nature of the causal connection as cause and effect between two things, a particular circumstances always and everywhere accompanied by certain phenomenon, as we find there is a connection, but this connection cannot be deduced mathematically by or in a priori manner by our reasoning. Causal laws can be discovered only empirically by an appeal to experience. So such a causal connection is not a point of mathematical reasoning or a priori thinking, but rather of something of our experience, something of empirical to be discovered or experienced. Now, based on this, we are coming to the principle of causation. The principle of causation may be formulated in different ways. Usually, people speak about the principle of causation in the following statements. Whatever happens must have a cause. Or people say, every effect has a cause. Again, people say, everything that begins to exist must have a cause to account for it. And sometimes people also, based on this, they deduce cause often comes before the effect. In all these statements, the connection between cause and effect is called causal connection. The causal connection exists between a prior phenomenon and a posterior phenomenon. It need not be that for a given effect there is only one cause. In fact, cause consists of the totality of the conditions from which the effect follows. For example, A car accident is often not caused by one cause, such as the carelessness of the driver. This itself may be caused by many factors. The carelessness of the driver itself may be caused by many factors, such as his health, overwork, sleeplessness, and other factors. Therefore, we say that in speaking about the causal connection, there must be cause and effect. There cannot be a one particular cause for a particular effect. There are many other factors involved of that. Let us now look into the way this principle is explained by philosophers. Thus we come to the various philosophers. How do they consider this principle of causation? First we come to our famous philosopher Aristotle. How Aristotle teaches about causation or principle of causality as it is working in our day-to-day experience of the phenomenon. In the Aristotelian view, causality refers to the influence of one thing in the production of another. More precisely, a cause is defined as that which in any way whatever exerts a positive influence in the production of a thing. According to him, there are three factors that enter into the concept of production. First, that which produces or the cause. Second, that which is produced or the effect. And the third, the positive influence of the cause in the production of the effect or causality. For the influence involved in order to be really causal, it must affect the reality of a thing in its production. There is no causality unless there is a production. This production influence on the reality of a thing is the most important factor in causality. A mere external sequence on the part of two things is not sufficient to bring them into the relation of cause and effect. For example, the fact that one train follows another along the tracks establishes no causal relation between them, because the connection between them is purely extrinsic. The production of the effect involves a change, and this change is brought about through action of the cause. Thus, according to Aristotle, there are four causes. First, the material cause, which is the undifferentiated stuff that from which a thing is made. It was this type of stuff that Ionian schools were in search of in the beginning of philosophy, the ancient Greek philosophy. That what is the stuff of the universe? That is the matter with which the whole universe is made up. They were in search of that. The material cause of a marble, in a similar way, or a marble statue, is the formless marble, the block of matter. The block of matter called the marble. That is the first cause. The second is, he speaks about the formal cause, which is the pattern that is to become embodied in the thing when it is fully realized. It is that which the thing essentially is. It is the formal cause. The formal cause of the marble statue is the idea of the statue as conceived by the sculptor, which is embodied in the statue. It is the Aristotelian counterpart of the Platonic form, because for Plato, the form of anything is in the idea, but for Aristotle, the idea of an object is the idea of anything is in the thing, and it is the form of the thing within the thing, which Plato would say is outside the thing, it is in the mind. The third, we have the efficient cause. It is the active agent who produces the thing. It is that through which the thing is produced. The efficient causes of the statue are the sculptor and also the instruments. And finally, the final cause, that is the end or purpose towards which the process is directed. It is that for the sake of which a thing is made. in sculpturing or in the artistic work, it is a fully completed statue, and the end or purpose may be different. It may include also monetary remunerations. Thus, the four causes of material cost, formal cost, efficient cost, and final cost makes of any fabricated article or the objects in our day-to-day experience, which have got four causes by which Aristotle speaks about that. So cause is a positive influence in the production of one thing from another. Now we come to the philosopher John Locke. John Locke is an empiricist for whom experience is the source of our knowledge. According to him, we get the ideas of cause and effect through experience, that is, sensation and reflection. We come to know of cause and effect by observing that particular things or qualities begin to exist, by observing that wood is reduced to ash by fire. We think of fire as the cause and of the ash as the effect, because whenever wood is burned, it is reduced to ashes. So from that pattern, Locke distinguishes different kinds of productions. When a new substance is produced from pre-existing material, it is called generation. For example, ash is produced from the burning of wood. It's a generation. The ash is generated. And secondly, when a new quality in a pre-existing thing, it is called alteration. For example, we say hot ashes. The ash that is warmed up is a hot ashes. The quality is changed of a pre-existing thing. And again, he speaks also about creation. In creation, a thing begins to exist without having any pre-existent material out of which it is made. There is no things existing out of which it is created, but it is created without having anything pre-existing. Thus it is called creation. Otherwise it will be generation. Now, insofar as causality is a relation between ideas, it is a mental construction. So for him, we come to know things, or we understand cause and are on sensation and reflection. So cause and effect are experienced through sensation and reflection. And this relation is on the ideas. A causal idea, something as cause, another idea as the effect. It happens in our mind. It is a mental construction. But it has a real foundation, and this is the power by which one substance affects other substance. Causes are related to active powers which have a relation to action or change. We know actions are passive or active, but there is an active power working actively or passively. But to which of these can we think about the causes working or causes involved as power? We derive our idea of active power and causal efficacy from introspection. If you observe a moving ball hitting another ball at rest and moving it, we do not observe any active power in the first ball, because it just communicates the motion it had received from another. But this gives us only a very obscure idea of active power. The active power of the moving ball is not clear. From where the moving ball moving in its active power, and how is this active power, from where it got it, is not clear. But if we turn to introspection, we find in ourselves a power which sets in motion several actions of our minds and bodies, commanding the doing or not doing such or such particular action. In other words, it is the exercise of volition which gives our clearest idea of power and causal efficacy. We desire to move our hand and we move. But if we don't will to move it, we don't move it. That's the both in both the cases the power is working with the will, volition. Though and how to understand with the volition the power, active power working in cause and effect relationship. Though he is an empiricist, Locke affirms the principle of causality in this, that everything which has a beginning must have a cause. By our will we move or not move. But he does not explain how this proposition is established by experience, how the power working as causal in connection between cause and effect is working, and how it is experienced is not clearly explained by John Locke, but he believes as a causal connection but not able to give an explanation in his own empiricistic ideas. Now we come to another empiricist philosopher, David Hume. What does he speak about causality and causal connection? David Hume, being an empiricist, he says that we know only what we experience. According to the traditional philosophers, cause is that which produces the effect. This means that there is a power or a force in the cause by which it is enabled to produce the effect. Hence, there is a necessary connection between cause and effect, so that if we knew the power, we could foresee the effect even without experience. But according to Hume, we cannot deduce the effect from the cause. Sense experience does not reveal the necessary connection between cause and effect, because the power working in cause and effect is something of an experiential. And if we know the power in the cause, and we can very well know we can foresee the effect, he says it is not possible. Sense experience does not reveal the necessary connection between cause and effect. Experience shows that when one occurs, the other also occurs. That one is followed by another. For instance, bread gives nourishment. Our internal experience also does not prove the existence of a connection between cause and effect, what is happening within us. Observing the operations of the mind, we see that various ideas arrive, associate with other ideas. But objects are not necessarily connected, but ideas are connected in our mind by association, which is the result of repetition and habit. And why we speak of the connection between cause and effect is an association of two ideas, that one accompanies the other in terms of cause and effect. By repetition and by habit, our mind associates with that. But there is no real experience of the causal connection. If two ideas have gone together so often in the past, when one appears, it suggests the other. But we do not observe any connection between them. They are conjoined but never connected. So our mind speaks of things as cause and effect in their connection, as conjoined to ideas, but never they are a connected experience of causality. According to Hume, therefore, he says, demonstration and experience are the two means by which we can come to know the principle of causality. But neither can validate it. Neither demonstration nor experience can validate the causal connections or causality. We do not reach the knowledge of the principle of causality through demonstration or a priori reasoning, which we have already said that it is nothing that can be deduced by our reasoning or by our a priori thinking, just that we can do it in mathematics. Such a procedure is possible, this demonstration is possible only in mathematics, such as 3 times 5 is equal to 15. But no mind can deduce the effect from the supposed cause in this manner. We cannot demonstrate that a certain cause must have a certain effect, or that it must always have the same effect. We cannot prove by reasoning that bread nourishes and fire warms, as we can do with a mathematical proposition. It sometimes does, sometimes may not do it. But that is not the case with mathematics. It is a priori, and by reasoning we can demonstrate it, and it is clear and distinct to our thinking mind with the mathematical values. And in mathematical value, there is a necessary connection between one value with another value. But there is no necessary connection between bread and nourishment. If there were, we would, with our experience, infer the effect from the cause with our experience, just as we can conclude from the concept of a triangle that the sum of its angles is equal to two right angles. Thus, it is not anything that can, the causal connection, the experience of the causal connection is not anything that can be deduced by our reasoning, by our mathematical thinking. It is not possible by demonstration. Our knowledge of the relation between cause and effect is based on observational experience. We observe that objects succeed one another, that similar objects are constantly conjoined, that heat follows flame, cold snow, etc. Now, having found many instances that two kinds of objects have always been conjoined, we infer that the objects are causally related, that one is the cause of the other. Upon the appearance of the one, we expect the appearance of the other. Mind is led by habit to believe that the two objects are intrinsically connected, that they will always go together. Here the point is to be taken note that the mind is led by the habit that two objects are intrinsically connected. After constant conjunction of the two objects, such as heat and flame and cold and snow, we are led by habit to expect the one from the appearance of the other. It is a habit of the mind. But our experience of the constant conjunction of objects produces a belief in their connection. Accordingly, David Hume would say that there is no experience of the causal connection other than the mind by habit associating two ideas or two objects by habit, one happening or accompanying the other in a constant on a repetition, in a mode of repetition. There is no experience of the causality. It only a reflection of the mind in habit, in association of ideas. That is, we do not have actually the experiential knowledge of causality, and causality is a power which works between a circumstance that producing a phenomenon as the effect, and in between there is a causal connection which is something experiential, but it is not given to, or we are not able to experience and speak about this causal connection. And having spoken this, we stop today this lecture, and we will see tomorrow on this again further by our J.S. Mill, how John Stuart Mill speaks on causal connection and his methods of causality. We will see tomorrow. Thank you.